On January 9, 2014, hundreds of men gathered at an auditorium on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. to hear a speech from a direct descendant of one of the principal founders of an amazing organization, celebrating an amazing accomplishment.
Today is the beginning of the next 100 years of Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated. All three of the founders, I am sure, are looking down upon all of this sea of blue and white and smiling like you would not believe. And I'm, as men of vision, it's hard for me to believe that they could have looked this far to see how this organization would grow and be functional to the purpose that they had in mind when it was founded.
On July 16, 2014, thousands of these same men returned to Washington, D.C. to celebrate this magnificent accomplishment, the centennial celebration of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
If you're here to celebrate 100 years, somebody make some noise! Put your hands together for me like this. Oh, you look good out there. Come on, if you're here to celebrate, clap your hands with us and move with us.
What do you say about an organization that has grown from one chapter on Howard University's campus to 650 chapters across the United States and internationally?
It has been determined by a number of college men in Washington, graduates of Howard University, to establish there during the next college session a fraternity in the interest of the better social and educational welfare of the noted institution.
The gentlemen he chose to start the organization were the key gentlemen on that campus at that time.
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity began a legacy that would last 100 years. The journey was long and turbulent, but over the century-long excursion, one fraternity would produce men that would shape the future of America, embrace every culture shift, engage every social movement, and survive public scrutiny.
One of the main things that really stood out to me was actually in going through that research, figuring out that the first president of Nigeria, Brother Nnamdi Azikiwe, was a member of Phi Beta Sigma that had cultural heritage. Due to the fact that my parents immigrated to the United States from Nigeria in 1989, it definitely shows that Phi Beta Sigma has roots, and I can really connect on a spiritual and cultural level with the organization because the history is rich.
Along with others in the Black fraternity movement, Phi Beta Sigma would struggle with cultural relevancy, take on the harsh criticism of hazing, struggle with the challenges of membership diversity, and the distractions of expansion to overcome negative public perception, and entrench themselves on campuses and in communities for the betterment of those communities.
And so he wanted to be a part of something that looked at the greater good for the greater person. And so that ability to look at people of color beyond complexion, beyond hair texture, beyond employment factor, and beyond heritage, all of those things combined to make him know that this was an organization that was going to uplift what he considered humanity.
Its programming charge, set in the promotion of bigger and better business, examines economic wisdom and wealth sufficiency. Its embrace on social action ensured the fraternity stayed connected to the needs of the masses.
Well, really the key to survival for any race, any individual, is a strong economic, financial system, whether it's personal, organizational, governmental. So if you have a strong financial backing, you will have a better chance of surviving in this world. So I believe the founders envisioned that the fraternity become a strong support arm and advocate for its members and its community to be strong financial citizens.
And as I look at the 6 core things they talked about 80 years ago when social action became an important program, Jim Crow, and then I think about stop and frisk in New York. Many of those issues still exist. When I think about what they talked about, bringing our community together, we still have a tremendous gap of lack of fellowship within our community. When you think about the health disparities and we look at what people are saying about the Affordable Care Act, so many of those same issues exist in a different form now.
Its emphasis on education and mentoring young black males instills a college-going culture in a young man at their earliest teen years.
Well, obviously, all our founders were educators in their own right. They all went on and pursued advanced degrees, and they felt that education was the key to success.
Between 15 and 28 days prior, my recommendation is...
It allows our organization to begin to focus much more on mentoring and leadership development, while at the same time, allowing those young men to be recognized and to be rewarded for the things that they do positively. And I think that that's a direction that we have to go, particularly as a male organization, in light of the fact that we see so many of our young men either going to prison or dropping out of school.
Education was their primary focus, and this is why, for me personally, our education program I'm very passionate about, and I do believe all men of Sigma should be proponents and advocates of education. And
I think that if we continue to do that, we can accomplish those goals that were set out in the 50s by one of our former national president, Dr. Paulette Moore.
Celebrating the legacy of these men was just part of the year-long centennial celebration. Phi Beta Sigma fraternity took the opportunity of this centennial to address the issues of the day. In participating in the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, it not only saluting the historical contributions of its members A. Philip Randolph and John Lewis, but such to address the current day issues of voter suppression and political disenfranchisement. The centennial of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity was a year of re-examination. How would the fraternity move forward in the second 100 years? Given the continual outbreaks of hazing, the decline of African American males in college campuses, and sexual orientation culture shifts taking place in America.
This is a brotherhood for all peoples. We have specific history that we come from, but and that's important. That's very important. But the idea should be that we serve the global humanity. It's a culture of service for all human beings, pretty much, and that diversity that we do have. Through by having a few brothers here, a few sprinklings of people who are not historically, don't identify as being black. I think that's a great strength to Phi Beta Sigma. It's going to be a huge strength to us as we go on to the 21st century.